So hey, what's up? This is Caleb from MassMuscleTV, bringing the competitors to you. I'm joined by Dr. Squat, aka Fred Hatfield. For those of you who don't know Fred Hatfield, he holds and has set numerous IPF world powerlifting records, as well as written hundreds of books. His credentials go on and on. He squatted 1,014 pounds, benched 523, deadlifted 766, totaled 2,303 pounds. So Fred is amazing. He's a doctor, so he's strong, he's knowledgeable, he knows his stuff. And we're joined with him today. So how you doing, Fred?
I'm great.
Great, awesome. It's great. It's an honor to have you with us today.
Well, thank you, Caleb.
Yeah, definitely. So pretty much my first question is, how many years did you powerlift, and have you been involved in the sport?
Wow, let me see. From the age of 12 years old, I've been lifting weights. My first set of weights was concrete-filled truck tires with a bar spanning in between them. And that was back in the mid-50s. So I've been involved in strength training all those years, over a half a century.
Wow, that's amazing. How did you get into powerlifting? How did you get into lifting?
I was an Olympic weightlifter, and I tried out for several world teams. Never could quite make it. I have a skeletal anomaly that held me back. My arms, if you're looking to, you can't see, I guess, but my arms don't straighten out fully. Oh, okay. And so holding the weight overhead was always a chore for me because I had to hold it with strength. It wasn't a bone-on-bone kind of a support structure that I had. And long story short, I never quite made it in the Olympic weightlifting arena. And when the sport of powerlifting was born in the right around 1964, 65, in that range there, I became somewhat interested. And by the time I became a full-fledged, full-time powerlifter, a couple of years had gone by. So I guess my first official competition was 1970 or 71, right in there.
How long did it take to prepare for that? Like, did somebody tell you about it, or did you just discover it? Or?
Oh, I knew about it. Everybody in the strength world knew powerlifting had just begun as a new sport. And I actually went to several powerlifting competitions just to scope it out to see if I liked it. And the very first time that I tried it in earnest, I found that I was quite good at it. And so I took it on.
Quite good at it, yeah. What would you say was your most memorable moment over your career? My
most memorable powerlifting moment?
Yeah, from powerlifting, yeah, whether it be competition, training, meeting somebody.
The whole experience was a beautiful thing for me. You know, I really enjoyed competing. Although I must say, I never really competed. I put myself in a class all by myself. And so whatever competition was being done, in my mind, was against myself. And, you know, I would just as likely show up for a meet to do only squats or you know, do a token squat and try to excel on the bench or something. In other words, I was always going for records. That was my whole reason for being in the sport, was records. I didn't care about beating other people. I cared about records. And so I could have had a lot more wins and beaten a lot more people if I had gone to compete. But I didn't. I went for records.
Okay. When did you find out that the squat was your best, and it is your favorite lift, right?
I don't know about favorite. You know, squats hurt.
Right.
I like all three lifts. I was pretty good at all three. Some people forget about the fact that I was able to deadlift well over 800 pounds and bench pressing well over 5, I was pretty good at all three. But, no, you're right. I was better in the squat than I was, relatively speaking, in the other two lifts. But I knew that right from the outset, and I seemed to have the perfect build for it, So I excelled at it. And it just was what it was. Not that it was my favorite lift.
Oh, okay, interesting. Now, in your prime, when you really, I would say your prime was probably in your 40s, late 40s. Am I correct?
Mid 40s.
Mid 40s. Yep. Okay. In that time, what did your training week look like?
Caleb, I have over the years tried many different methods of training. Some I devised myself, some I borrowed from others, and it wasn't until I went over to the Soviet Union and studied there at the Institute of Sport, at the Lenin Institute of Sport, back in the early 80s, that I began to realize that I was leaving an awful lot on the platform, strength-wise. The Russians had their act together when it came to training science. And some of the things that I learned in the Soviet Union, I very anxiously went home to try. And when I began to fully understand what it was I was dealing with in the whole science behind strength, that's when I began to truly make progress. I increased each lift by 10 to 20%, almost inside of a year.
Wow.
With some good scientific-based training behind me, nobody else stood a chance.
Right. What would you say the greatest key really that you got from that? What was the best information?
Well, it may sound like old hat to you and to your listeners, but that's when periodization first burst upon the scene in the United States. The whole concept of periodizing your training and trying to accomplish one thing at a time instead of everything all at once, that was revolutionary for everybody here in this country. And when I began to seriously look at periodizing my training, that's when I began to make serious gains.
Okay. That's interesting. That's very interesting. So they kind of birthed periodization, which in turn went from powerlifting onto bodybuilding as well.
Do you know any bodybuilders who periodize their training?
I don't think I know any that don't.
Really?
Yeah.
How did they do that?
As far as...
it's interesting to me because I, of course, I've been following bodybuilding for many years. I've trained a dozen top Mr. Olympia caliber bodybuilders over the years, and almost none of them, of course I'm a little older now, maybe things have changed in the past 10 years, but none of them had any concept of what I was talking about when I said that we had to periodize their training, because it simply wasn't a part of the bodybuilding experience.
Right. I think they were slow to pick it up.
I developed a bodybuilding system called the ABC system of training. Light, moderate, and heavy, or A, B, and C. And in an A workout, you had certain things to accomplish. In a B workout, you had certain things to accomplish. And in the C workout, that was a real building workout. That was the workout that was designed for hypertrophy.
Okay.
One of the things that I learned about bodybuilding is that you can't get big at every single workout. And every single workout should not be designed to try to get your muscles bigger. But the C workouts can only be done every once in a while. And each body part is different. So you have to learn how quickly you can recover from heavy training, body part per body part. And when you are recovered, that is when you do a C workout. That's true periodization.
Okay.
And I created that system some 25 to 30 years ago. And I've been working with it, with bodybuilders ever since. And of course, it's gotten refined over the years. But that's the only periodization system that I knew anything about, the one that I created.
Okay.
If some bodybuilders are periodizing their training now, I'm behind times. I have to go back into the muscle mags and find out what they're doing.
Well, yeah, I think it's just a different terminology. I think yours is much more advanced.
Well, it's the oldest.
Click here for part 2 of the Fred Hatfield interview.